Hello book lovers and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I am here to do my November mid-month wrap up. Alright guys, so today is November 18th. We are a little bit past the halfway mark and I'm here to go through the books that I have read, that I'm currently working on, and the books that I still need to get to this month. This video will hopefully not be too long because I have actually only read 4 books so far this month. It has been a bit of a slow month for me. I did a little bit of traveling. I also started the month off with a 500-page adult fantasy book, which is not something I've read for a while, so it definitely took me a while to get through that. And unfortunately, I've also been a little bit sick and having some issues with like controlling my anxiety, which has impacted the amount of reading that I'm doing. But I'm still happy with what I have read so far, so I will review those 4 books and then go through the books that I'm currently reading and that I still need to get through by the end of the month to complete my goals. All right, so the first book, that 500-page adult fantasy that I read, is Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. This is the first book in what I'm hoping is a duology, since the next book I believe is coming out in April, and I would love to finish up this series real quick. And in this book, we are following Remy, who is the son of a well-known duke as well as a vampire hunter. However, he is not treated very well among the aristocracy due to there being rumors that he is half vampire. His mother had run away with her vampire lover and actually been bitten by a vampire while she was pregnant with him and had died giving birth to him. So there is some rumors going around that because she was bitten while he was still in the womb, he may actually be a vampire. Towards the beginning of this book, Remy starts to realize that there are people being killed by vampires in a way that people usually aren't being killed by vampires. And after he is able to sneak some information from the Reapers, who are the vampire hunters, that explains that there was a vampire that was killed, burned, and then resurrected, he wants to start investigating this. He ends up getting the help of a vampire and his fiance, and that is Xaden, the king of the Third Court, as well as Song, who is the daughter of the queen of the Fourth Court. Together, the 3 of them set out to solve multiple mysteries that are going on at this time. We have resurrecting vampires, vampire mutations, we have new courts that are trying to form and take over other courts. We also have some murders going on that need to be solved. And as all that is happening, Remy is starting to fall for the couple, and they are more than happy to welcome him into their relationship. So this is a polyamorous vampire story, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. This book was a 5-star prediction, so unfortunately it did fall a little bit flat for me. One thing that I will say though is that the characters in this book are so strong. I absolutely loved all of them. Remy is our narrator, and I really loved his character growth throughout the story. He is someone who, he does so much. He is incredibly talented at what he does, but because of these rumors and because of the kind of fraught relationship between his father and the leader of the Reapers, he is very much underappreciated, and if not outright left out of discussions and often put into dangerous situations that the other Reapers just don't want to deal with. And throughout the story, we begin to see him as he realizes his worth and that he is someone who deserves to be loved and respected. Song and Xaden are excellent love interests. Song is such a strong woman. She is more than happy to let people know exactly what she is thinking. She is not going to be in the background. She's gonna be on the front lines fighting, despite the fact that she is technically sick. She needed her heart replaced when she was younger after a war with another clan. And while on one hand she is incredibly strong compared to other vampires, she can also tire very easily due to her injury. Zayden, on the other half, is very brooding. He seems like someone who is very distant, if not a bit full of himself, but at the same time, he is someone who loves so deeply and is willing to make so many sacrifices for those that he loves and cares about. And together, the three of them are just the dream team, and just had a wonderful time spending time with these characters and look forward to seeing them in the next book. The reason I couldn't give it 5 stars, I just didn't love the plot. I did think it had a lot going on throughout the story, so I was never like bored, but at the same time, I felt like it was missing that little oomph, the amount of drama and surprise and unexpected twists that I was hoping to find with a story that had so many players and so many different plot lines going on in it. And I just think some of the reveals ended up leaving me a little bit underwhelmed. It just wasn't the compulsive story that I was hoping it would be, but still highly recommend this story. Like I said, the second book is coming out early next year, so if you haven't picked it up yet, now's the perfect time. The next book that I picked up was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I do want to say that this book, as well as Silver Under Nightfall, was in my polyamorous vampire vlog, so if you want to check that out, I will go ahead and list it here and down below. It is quite long, but I do go quite into depth about my feelings about this story, so I would love for you to check that out. In this book, we are reading the letters of Dracula's first wife, and she is kind of explaining why she got to the point where she had to kill him. We follow her and Dracula across centuries as they outlive plagues and wars and revolutions, and as they take on Magdalena and Alexei as new lovers as well. This story deeply explores the concept of an abusive relationship, specifically one that is more psychologically abusive than physical, though it does start to slip a little bit into physical abuse towards the end as things escalate. So obviously, if that is a triggering topic to you, keep that in mind when you're deciding if you want to pick this book up or not. One of the things that people love about this story is the writing, and it really is worth the hype. As you can see, I did decide to tab this book, which isn't something I do very often, but I'm really glad that I did because the writing was so perfect for the atmosphere that the author was building. It was a very unique writing style. Sometimes you're reading it and you're like, I don't really know what you're saying, but it's beautiful. So I think really for the time period that we were in, it had that flowery purple writing, I guess you would call it. It was very descriptive, and it just brought so much emotion to the story and really brought the character's experience to life. I really did enjoy our character as well. We really got to see how she changed over the centuries as she started to realize that, hey, I'm not really in a good situation, and how her behavior changes as she starts to realize that she's trapped in this relationship, and as she begins to realize that people she loves and cares about are also trapped there with her, and how she decides to take action not only because of her need for safety and freedom, but because of her need to keep those she loves safe as well. So really a great concept of polyamory, of family. Each of the lovers in the story are so different, but all of them love and hate Dracula, and all of them love each other very much, and they're just such an interesting group to follow, and I highly suggest picking up this book. It is 100% worth the hype that it gets. And I think I may have forgotten to mention, but I gave this book a 4.5 stars. Up next, we have the one audiobook that I have been able to finish so far this month, but I happen to own it physically, and that is Fortune Favors the Dead by Stephen Spotswood. I picked this up for my Aurelium Adventure prompts, and this is actually for the October prompt, which I was not able to complete last month, and that was stars on the cover. You can like probably see it a little bit. There's stars on the cover. I initially in my TBR video chose another book, Hunting for Stars, I believe it was called, but that book ended up being the second book in a series, which I technically knew picking it up, but I thought it was more of a companion series. However, after listening to like 10 or so % of that book, I realized that I really do need to read the first book, so I decided to put that down and pick this book up instead. So this is a historical mystery story set in the 1940s. We are following Will, and she works for the well-known lady detective, Miss Pentecost. She ends up meeting Miss Pentecost while she is working a side gig while the circus that she is working for is in town. She sees Miss Pentecost and a man arguing, and when this man ends up pulling a gun, Will ends up throwing a knife into his back. Miss Pentecost then asks her to become her assistant, and over the years starts to teach her how to be a secretary as well as a detective. The story takes place 3 years after the two women initially meet, and there is a murder of a well-known woman. This woman is found dead in a locked room at her Halloween party. This room had previously been the location of a seance where the spiritualist had apparently been possessed by the woman's dead husband. So there's rumors flying around that it was her husband who had killed her. And so Miss Pentecost and Will set out to see who the real murderer is. Along the way, Will and the daughter of this woman start to get a little bit flirtatious. I do mention that, but I do want to say that this is not a romance story. I had been hoping for a bit more romance between the women throughout the story, but that did not happen, but it was fun all the same to watch them flirt and dance. I ended up giving this story only 3 stars. I think the fact that I listened to the audiobook really added a lot to the story. I think the narrator did a wonderful job of really capturing Will as a character and really brought her to life, and I really enjoyed that experience. It was a fun time listening to it. I have to admit, as far as the mystery aspect goes, it was a middle of the road for me. I thought it was a good mystery. I didn't predict all of it, but at the same time, I really did feel like I was staying with this book because of the characters more than the mystery. And then towards the end of the book, the author kind of tacked on like this extra kind of reveal from a mystery that had been like vaguely mentioned and didn't have too much to do with the main mystery of the story, where it was kind of like, hey, a bonus reveal, and I was kind of like, well, this is kind of weird and random. So not my favorite story. Definitely glad that I picked it up. I do know that this is the beginning of a series, but I will not be continuing it. And the last book that I finished was another historical mystery, this one in the 1880s, and that is A Perilous Undertaking by Diana Rayborn, and this is the second book in the Veronica Speedwell series. In this book, our character is approached by a woman to see about exonerating a man who has been accused of murdering his pregnant mistress. It seems that this man technically has an alibi, but is unwilling to reveal that alibi due to some scandals and bad things, I guess, that would happen if he revealed it. So she and her partner Stoker set out to figure out who the real murderer is, or if the police actually had gotten it right and that the man did in fact kill his mistress. I ended up giving this story 4 stars. Once again, I will say, just like with the first one, the characters were the strongest aspect of the story. I feel like with most of the books that I've been reading this month, I'm like, the characters, but I am a really character-driven person, so honestly, that's not like too big of a problem for me. I didn't love the mystery in this story. I didn't love the mystery in the first book either, but it was enough to move the story forward and kept me interested. But at the end of the day, I am here for Veronica and Stoker, and even all the side characters that the author introduces are just so entertaining. I think the story is so funny, and at the same time, we can really tell that our characters have been through quite a lot, and I love getting those snippets of their past, of their character, and just learning more about them and watching them learn more about each other. So I will definitely be continuing this series just so I can spend more time with them. All right, guys, so those are the 4 books that I have read so far. Let's get into the books that I'm currently working on and the ones I still need to get to, starting with my current audiobook that I'm very slowly making my way through. We have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I believe like 64% through this story. It's hard for me to say if I like it or not. It's sometimes I'm enjoying it, other times I'm not enjoying it. Sometimes I like the characters, sometimes I hate the characters. This is very much a roller coaster ride of emotions for me with this story, and I don't mean like the author is causing it. It's just my like and dislike of the story is causing it. So right now I'm not super optimistic that it'll be anything more than like a 3.5 stars, but I am reading this for my current month Aurelium prompt, adventure prompt, and that was to read a book set in winter. So here we are. As for my physical read, I am finally getting to the second book of the Inheritance trilogy, which is The Broken Kingdoms, and I am 96 pages into this book. The one thing I will say is that the text is relatively large in this book, so I'm getting through it somewhat quickly. Also, N.K. Jemisin just really knows how to pull you into her story. I haven't read the first book since December of last year, and I maybe took like a few pages to get into the story, but not more than like 10 or 20. I believe it's set maybe like 10 or so years after the end of the original book, and is slightly more companion story than actual continuation of the series. So far having a great time with it. Really glad that I finally got this on my TBR, and shout out to my Instagram followers for voting for this, because I know that I did a poll of which book I should pick up next, and they voted for this one. So thank you, and follow me on Instagram. I do post polls every once in a while that you guys can interact with. As far as books I still need to read, I technically only have 1 book on my TBR that I need to get to, and that is Heaven Official's Blessing Volume 5. And obviously I will be getting to that once I finish The Broken Kingdoms. I'm super excited to be continuing with this series. I have been having a great time with it so far. 2 other physical books that would be great to get to if I happen to have time. One I mentioned in my TBR, that is Win by Lily Mayne. This is the novella for her Monstrous series, but one thing I forgot to mention is that I need to continue my reread of the Warrior series. So book 4 of Warriors by Erin Hunter, Rising Storm, I should probably try to get to if I finish my TBR, because I still technically want to finish it by the end of the year, and I have book 4, 5, and 6 still. So yeah. As far as audiobooks go, I don't have any that I have to read, which is good considering how slow I've been getting through them, but I do have 2 that are currently available to me on Libby that I would like to try to get to. The first one is Vampires of El Norte by Isabella Canos. I have read her Hacienda book, and I think I only gave it 3.5 stars, but I have a feeling that I'll like her books better as audiobooks, so I'm really excited to give this book a try. try. And the last one that I have is The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. And this is just one of those books that I had on my list of 10 horror thriller mysteries that I really wanted to read via audiobook. And so if I have time, I will try and pick this up by the end of the month. All right, guys, so those are all the books that I have read, am currently reading, and still need to read in the month of November. I would love to know how your month is going. What's your favorite book so far? What book are you currently working on? And what book are you still eager to get to by the end of the month? As always, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!